Hello, and good morning, or good afternoon, or maybe even good evening to all of you out there. Welcome to a Spider Strategies webinar, training webinar covering charts and reports in QuickScore. We appreciate you attending. My name is Tom Keating, and I will be your host and presenter for today's training session. I am a training and customer experience consultant here at Spider Strategies. Just pause here for a second to let you just take a look at my email address, tom.keating@spiderstrategies.com. Please feel free to use it at any point in time to reach out to me with any questions, needs, or support around training or your customer experience as a Spider Strategies QuickScore customer. Quick look at today's agenda for this training session. We'll start by doing a brief overview of charts and reports and their use and consumption within QuickScore. Then we'll move on to building reports in QuickScore, then building charts in QuickScore, and lastly, covering a kind of a neat little feature and opportunity, which is to use reports within QuickScore to achieve mass editing of scorecard properties and information behind the scenes in your scorecards, again, through a report. Before we get into that material, just wanted to touch on a couple of webinar logistics for your information. This webinar is being recorded, and the idea behind that is future use, for yourself if you need a reminder or a refresher of anything that we covered today, and or if you want to share it with any of your counterparts at all of your organizations. Secondly, you are all on mute. As much as I would love for this session to be a highly interactive conversational session, we've learned through these webinars that if you leave the attendees unmuted, there's almost always going to be some sort of, we'll call it noise pollution that occurs in the background. Somebody forgets to voluntarily mute themselves and we end up hearing, their dog barking in the background or something. And so with that said, with you being muted and really unable to directly communicate with me during this session, I again invite you to please send any questions or communications or feedback to either me directly or to our Spider Strategies Education Department email, which is learn@spiderstrategies.com. So with that said, let's just again quickly just take a look at the agenda and we'll jump into QuickScore and address a broad overview of charts and reports, their use and their consumption in QuickScore. I'll bring up QuickScore. I've already done the login process, so I won't put you through that. And of course, have landed at our familiar homepage, which again is my personal homepage, giving me access to responsibilities that I have, alerts that pertain to me or I've subscribed to, and so forth. We're going to be spending most of our time today in the charts and reports section of QuickScore. So if I can direct your attention over to the black navigation pane on the left, I'll just quickly click on charts and reports. When you click on that, it opens up a secondary black navigation pane, giving you visibility and access to existing reports, as well as the opportunity to create new reports, to create a new folder, and down at the bottom to do editing of existing material within the charts and reports section. Again, we'll spend most of our time today in this section of QuickScore, but before we get there, again, in the spirit of kind of a broad overview of the use and consumption of reports within QuickScore, I just want to make sure you understand that as much as you'll do you'll do all of your development work within charts and reports section, there are other sections of QuickScore where you can access and view existing charts and reports. So taking just a few minutes to address that, if I navigate up to my personal bookmarks area, again, far left black navigation pane, I'll click on bookmarks, which opens up my personal, what I always call a personal library of content that I have chosen to add and make easily referenceable and quickly opened via my bookmarks library. And you can see that within my bookmarks library, I have an example of a sales overview report. I also, the second one down, have an example of a pie chart. Also, just further down the list of the content within my bookmarks library, I have other reports and charts that are available to me here within my bookmarks. So in terms of the quickest and easiest access to existing reports and charts within QuickScore, I would recommend that you keep in mind that virtually anything, any kind of content within QuickScore can be made an element of your personal library. Before we leave that concept behind, let me just show you how easy it is to add something as a bookmark in case you by any chance are not aware of how to do that. So if I navigate back to the charts and reports area, I've got a small collection of existing reports. I've also organized the charts and reports into some subfolders for training purposes, including some out-of-box reports and some existing chart types that we'll review here in just a few minutes. And if I go into the out-of-box reports area and I'll randomly click on the scorecard item, owner and updater report. And if I want to make this report an element of my bookmarks library, all I need to do is in the far upper right-hand corner, there is a star for bookmarks. I simply click on that star, it becomes blue, which is my visual indication that this report has now been added to my bookmarks library. And if I return to my bookmarks library, sure enough, at the bottom of my listing of applications and objects within my bookmarks library, there's the scorecard item owner and updater report. So be aware that bookmarks is a great way to get access and visibility to existing charts and reports. Another area of QuickScore where you can similarly take advantage of existing reports and charts content and present it in a slightly different way, maybe a consolidated dashboard screen, is within the dashboard section of QuickScore. So I've navigated to the dashboard section. Again, I have a training content folder, and within it, I've got a dashboard called Chart and Report on a Dashboard, a fairly simplistic dashboard, which is comprised of, on the left, a chart, a bar and line combination chart with its supporting data table beneath it, as well as a report over on the right, which is the same report that we just talked about and viewed and put into my bookmark section. With regard to how report content can be added to dashboards, all you have to do is put yourself into edit mode within the dashboards section. And then when you're in edit mode, it's simply adding content onto your dashboard screen. So in this case, what I'll do is just quickly remove the report content that presently existed on this dashboard. And in the far upper left, I'll add a widget. And one of the elements, one of the many elements that you can add to dashboards in version 3.2 is report. So if I click on report, I can navigate out and find whatever report or graph or chart I'm looking for. And again, I'll go after the scorecard item and owner report and add it to my dashboard, and then just reposition that report as a dashboard element wherever I want it to be on my dashboard. So quick and easy adding of report content onto dashboards. We'll get out of full screen mode. Another and third area where you can add existing report content within QuickScore is into briefings. Briefings allow you to bring together very diverse content from within your QuickScore solution into presentation decks, very similar to like a PowerPoint deck where you can present a multi-page narration around content that already exists somewhere within your QuickScore solution. So in this case, I have a training content briefing, which is comprised of just 6 different pages. And this briefing allows me to navigate page to page and present different types of reports and or graphs around which, again, I can present, a nice narrative and a story behind all of this content, all within a briefing or a briefing book. And again, the briefings allow you to do full screen presentation, and briefings are exceptionally easy to create as well. Again, just to get back to the idea of how do you add a report, a chart or a report into a briefing, it's very much like what you saw me do when I added a chart or report to my bookmarks area. I'll just navigate back to the charts and reports section of QuickScore, and let's say that I would like my HQ scorecard report to be added to a briefing. In this case, instead of using the bookmarks button in the upper right, just to the right of it, there's a send to button, and I'll click that and select a briefing. And then you simply go out and navigate to the briefing that you want to add this new page to, highlight the name of that briefing, click save, and that has now been added as, in my case, a 7th page into my training content briefing. And I can go ahead and navigate and show you that, one more page. There is that HQ scorecard report now added to my briefing book. So I know that I'm kind of working my way backwards, but I want to make sure that you understand what you can eventually do with reports and charts that we'll be showing you how to create here for the remainder of this training session. All right, so with that said, let's get back into the charts and reports section of QuickScore and show you how you can create reports. Before I get into the how part though, I'll start with the how. Is you simply use, of course, the new report button at the top of the second black navigation pane. When you click new report, you're presented with some choices as to how you want to get started. In the left-hand column under the scorecard heading is what I call our out-of-box reports. And there are 8 out-of-box reports in the left-hand column. There's also an initiatives report on the right-hand column. So before we get into authoring a report, I just want to give you a sense of the nature of what are these choices? What does an annual measure data report look like? What will I get if I select that as an existing template that I can very quickly and easily fire up as a report? So I'm going to cancel out temporarily out of the report development phase and just share with you the nature of some of those out-of-box reports. And we'll do this quickly, but I just want you to have a visual on what are we talking about with those different types of out-of-box reports. So the first is our scorecard item and owner and updater report. We've seen this now a couple times. It's a pretty simple report, just allowing you to view elements of your scorecard and who the owner or the updaters are. Moving down the list, the annual measure data report, as its name implies, gives you an annual overview of whatever measures you choose to include in the report. So it's going to give you a 12-month overview. In my case, I'm working with artificial generated data for a mythical company called Mobile World. And I've gone ahead and generated mythical data all the way out through October of 2018. But you do see that November and December are really still devoid of data. But all the other months of 2018 are populated for me in this annual report. The next report is the scorecard structure report. This is very helpful if you want to get a broad overview understanding of the structure of any particular scorecard within your QuickScore environment. It gives you the scorecard name, perspectives, objectives, and then measures, and in this case, a lot of linked items, but the measures or metrics would be in the right-hand column. The fourth report down, probably our most popular out-of-box report, is the red measures report. Everyone, of course, wants to know where you might be underperforming in terms of, all of the metrics that you're tracking. The red measures report allows you to very quickly and easily create a report like this, showing you where things are red. And you may see that some of these are actually yellow, so they're kind of middle performing, but it's all predicated on whether something has really ever been read in the time period that you define behind the scenes to view within the report. The next report moving down the list is the missing measure values report. And again, as I said earlier, I kind of pre-populated with generated data here, this scorecard all the way out through October. So I do need to navigate a couple months ahead to show you that in November of 2018, we're missing data. So all of these measures and all the values in here are populated through October, but when we get to November, there's no data, so therefore it does fall into the missing measure values report. Again, continuing down the list of reports out of box is the measure update frequency report. Again, this one's pretty simple in nature, just giving you a quick and easy view as to how frequently any particular measure or metric within your scorecard system is expected to be updated. Again, continuing further down the list, the measure comparison report. This is a great report because it allows you to compare information from two different organizations, effectively sort of side by side within a report. So what I did in this case was we have a financial organization. I created a copy of it, which is, of course, a completely different organization. I adjusted some of the values and the numbers in the copy of financial, and it allows me to compare the two different organizations and all the various metrics or measures along the top of those two organizations effectively side by side. So a nice visual comparison of two different organizations and their performance. Moving a little further down the list of reports, the scorecard attributes report. Again, as its name implies, it's just going to show you and tell you all the various attributes for all of your different measures. And then if anything else, such as objectives or what have you, and perspectives, if it's pertinent, then you'll also see information or attributes about those. And lastly, from our out-of-box reports, we have this initiatives report. For those of you that have been with QuickScore back to version 2, you know that there was an initiatives management report in version 3.2 of QuickScore, which we're now working with and viewing. We have re-implemented that report and made it again available to you so that you can have a nice overview of any and all initiatives that have been created within your organization. So that is a quick overview of the out-of-box reports. With that said, let's go ahead and create a new report. And the first thing we'll do is take advantage of one of those out-of-box reports to show you how quick and easy it is to create one of those out-of-box reports. Again, I alluded to the red measures report being probably our most popular out-of-box report. So I'll select red measures reports and click, of course, in the lower right-hand corner, click next. Before I do that, just note along the bottom that there's sort of a 3-step roadmap, just giving you a visualization of where you are in the report development process. When you're using out-of-box reports, there are usually only 1, 2, or maybe 3 steps that you need to perform. I'll click next. First thing we need to do here with an out-of-box report is just point it at an organization and some elements of the scorecard. So in my case, what we'll do is focus today primarily on our financial organization within the Mobile World Inc. Corporation. And if I highlight financial on the left, I see that I have a financial profit and loss scorecard on the right. Within that scorecard, I have different areas or themes. So I've got revenue, cost of sale, what have you. And I can choose to include whatever I want in this red measures report. I'm actually going to bring everything from the whole financial profit and loss scorecard into this report. So I'll leave that selected on the right and click next. And then the last step is just to define the time period that you'd like to include in the resulting report. In my case, I'll leave it as employing the calendar of the current calendar. Again, if you wanted to change the periodicity that's going to be displayed in your report, you have different period choices there available to you. In terms of what time period I'd like to see in this report, I'd like to see 3 months worth of data. So I'm going to go back 2 periods earlier and then through the current period. And within this report, I don't think that it's important for us to have the description of anything that's going to be brought into the report, but let's say on the right, I would like to view who the updaters are for any of the measures or metrics that will be presented in the report. So I will turn that on, and then I'll click finish. And so I'm immediately presented after just a simple 2 or 3 step process with this nicely formatted report giving me an overview of where and when we've got some underperforming values. And again, you'll see that in some months we might be doing great. If I look at marketing and advertising, you know, in September it's green, but in October it's red, right? And for November, I don't yet have any data values. Again, I can use the navigation pane in the upper right, the buttons to jump back and forth over different time periods and see the same report for 3 different months in each case. So that's how quick and easy it is to create one of our out-of-box reports, and they all are pretty similar in that fashion, where if I were, again, just to click another new report. Oh, real quick, folks, very important with regard to report authoring, before I forge ahead, in the lower right-hand corner, if I want to save this report, I, of course, need to click Save and provide it with a name. I'll just call this, what do we have here? We got July 26th as today's date, so we'll call this the July 26th Red Measures Report, and click Save. Also, another nice feature, of course, of report authoring is the ability to edit a report after it's been created. And in this case, we, of course, use the nice little out-of-box wizard process to create this Red Measures Report, but I, of course, can edit it. And if I click Edit, I have the opportunity to go ahead and make further, more diverse changes to this report than I necessarily was able to do through the brief, you know, two or 3 step wizard. So in this case, if I wanted to add additional columns that I may not have seen originally through the out-of-box wizard, I certainly have access to include additional columns of information. Maybe I'd like to know the scoring type and the score and the goal. So I'll just throw in those, you know, additional columns and then click Finish. So I've edited the report, and then I'll click Done towards the bottom of the black navigation pane, kind of middle left, and you see that that red measures report now includes some additional information such as scoring type and additional measure values like goal and score that were not there initially. So that gives you a sense of, again, creating an example of one of our out-of-box reports. Let's move on, again, still sticking with the theme of report creation, and I'll go ahead and save my minor changes there. Again, in terms of creating a brand new report, on the right, we have the report writer selection, and this gives you the opportunity to create a report from scratch, an ad hoc report where you're not dependent on any predefined template or out-of-box template on the left. You're just free-form creating a report, from scratch. So I'll click Report Writer and click Next. The report writing process in an ad hoc report is effectively a three-step process. You start by choosing the columns that you'd like to view in your report. You move to defining the time period you'd like to view in the report. And lastly, you create or define the filters that limit the data that's going to be presented in your report from all the various data that's available in the underlying QuickScore repository. So in step one, I'll create a report here where I, of course, want the name of any element within, that I'm going to include in this report. I'd also like to include the ID. Maybe I'd also like to see, the scoring type and the updaters. And then I'll click under the performance column on the right. I'll say I'd like to view the color, the score, the normalized score, the 0 to 10 normalized score. I'd also like to see the actual measure value, as well as the goal and any variance to goal. So again, picking whatever columns you want. Again, in version 3.2, we've added 5 or 6 new performance columns that you can add in terms of measures or metrics that you can include in your report. Then I'll click Next to move to the second step of the process, which is choosing, again, the time period. This is very similar to what we saw with the out-of-box report that we created just a minute ago. Again, I'll just limit this report to 2 periods earlier through the current period. You also do have in the bottom left the opportunity to decide whether you'd like to see abbreviated values or the full-on, full down to decimal precision, potentially, values in your report. I'll leave it clicked on to show abbreviated values, and then click Next. And then the third step of the process here is to define the row filters. You, of course, do not want to try and effectively barf everything that's in the underlying QuickScore data repository into your report. You definitely want to limit what you're viewing in terms of rows in the report in one way or another. So on the right, I'll click the Add button to add or create a new filter. And I have to tell it, what would I like to filter on? And we've got a long list of different attributes of everything that's, within the Scorecard repository. And I'll select specific scorecard item, because I do know what area of which scorecard I'm going after that I'd like to include in this report. So I'll select specific scorecard items, click Next, and I get presented with the specific scorecard item screen, and I'll navigate to whatever organization and scorecard element I'd like to include in the report. So in this case, I'll click Financial to work with, again, the financial organization. On the right, again, I have visibility to the whole financial profit and loss scorecard, including all of the different themes and underlying measures or metrics. And in this case, again, I'll just include the entire financial profit and loss scorecard in my report. So when I click Add to the right of that, it adds it up at the top. You now see presented at the top. It knows that it's going to go after ID 933 and the financial profit and loss scorecard, which is within the financial organization. Another thing that's important, it's subtle but important to know about here, is up in the upper right, there's a check that is there, a blue check under the Cascade column, which is telling me that right now it's going to include descendants of this scorecard. So it will give me all my revenue theme and all the measures under it, the cost of sales theme and everything under it. If I only wanted just an overview, summary, one-row report summarizing my entire financial profit and loss scorecard performance, I could deselect that check and I'd end up with just a one-row report. But in my case, I do want everything within that scorecard, so I'll leave that checked on and I'll click Done. The last step of the ad hoc report generation process is simply to click Get Report. So it's officially the fourth step. in the process, but it's an easy one, a quick one, to say get report and go get me the data. So there you go. It's processed the report, including, you know, all the filter definitions that we asked for, all the columns that we asked to be presented, and the time frame of, you know, we're looking at presently August 2018 is my current reference time, and it's going back and showing me June and July and August information in the report. Everything nicely color-coded as we asked to present colors and so forth. Again, at this point, I'll click Save to save this report as, again, we'll just call this July 26 report writer. We'll just call this PL report. Oh, good enough. Okay, and click Save. Now, while we're viewing this report, just a couple things for you to be aware of. A new feature to version 3.2 is the ability to sort data within your report. So if I want these rows to be presented in a sorted order according to the score, the normalized score for June of 2018, I simply click on the column header for score, and you see that a little chevron is now appearing, showing me that it has sorted this column for me in an ascending order. If I click on score again, it's sorting it in a descending order. And if I click score a third time, it just reverts it back to the default layout that was pulled or that came from the underlying data and the structure of the scorecard in our repository. So again, a three-way toggle to sort ascending, descending, or no sorting at all. Another kind of important element for you to be aware of in terms of report authoring is once you've generated a report, you of course may come back around later and want to make some changes. You might want to remove things or add things to the report. So at the bottom again of the black navigation panes on the left is an edit button. Very important for you to know about that. Also be aware that there's also an edit button towards the upper right next to your time period selector. So in either case, you're getting into edit mode. It doesn't matter which of the two you click on. So I'll click on edit, and what it gives you then is kind of an overview, a structural overview of the report that you've generated to this point. So let's imagine that in this case, what I'd like to do is add some customer information into this report that presently is giving me financial information. So in the row filters area of this overview on this report, I can click add in the upper right, and again, tell it how I want to go and filter this report to get some additional data to bring in to the report. And again, I'll select specific scorecard items, which is by far the most commonly employed method of filtering, presuming that you know about your scorecard and what you're going after in your report. And then I'll click next. And in this case, we have a customer support organization on the left, which of course has its customer help desk scorecard and the underlying, you know, themes and measures within it. And I would like to add this customer help desk information to this report. Now, if I click add and then click done, you see that there are now, you know, two filters defined as row filters. And if I click done under the black navigation pane where the button used to be edit, if I click done, I get nothing. I get 0 results. And the question there is, why did I get nothing? And the answer, folks, is that I just created 2 different filters, right? Each filter is going to go pull its own respective data set, again, from the QuickScore data repository. And the nature of these 2 filters as they exist is that they have an and relationship. The default relationship between filters is and. So what this report is looking for is any row that was returned from my financial filters and from my customer support filters, of which there are no rows that fulfill both of that. So what I need to do is adjust this to get into more of an or logic behind my second filter. So if I click on my second filter, the customer support or customer help desk filter, notice that at the far lower left corner of my filter definition screen, there is a little slider button that allows me to change the, if you will, the logic between these filters to say, add this filter as an or filter. So one simple change there to again, change kind of the logic or the relationship between the 2 filters. You now see under the row filters area, it says or. So it's either financial profit and loss or customer help desk data that I want to pull. And then click done. And now I get a nice report that includes both the financial information that came from the first filter, as well as information that came from our customer support filter as well. So it's a subtle but important feature of reports if you're going to be employing multiple different sort of filter logic behind the scenes on a report. So again, I'll click Save to save that report. Okay, so so far what we've covered is an overview of where to get to reports and charts. We addressed the creation of reports in terms of using the out-of-the-box reports as well as creating an ad hoc report. At this point, we're about half an hour in. It's a good time to move over to the discussion about charts. So I will again start the process of building a chart by clicking New Report and opening up the chart writer. Okay. Within the chart writer, it's a nice, simple one-page starting point to get a chart created. Before we get into actually creating a chart, this is something I forgot to do. I want to just share with you the nature of what types of charts are available to you, easy to create within QuickScore. So back in the charts and reports area, I'm going to expand or open this charts folder and just quickly review, kind of like what I did with you for the out-of-box reports. I just want to make you aware of, the visuals around different types of charts that you can create. So the first is a line chart, pretty simple line chart. All of our charts provide you with a visualization according to the type of chart you've selected. There's hover over, data access capabilities, and there's going to be a table of detail information supporting the visualization in the chart itself. So a line chart around some product revenue information. Another type of chart, of course, a bar chart, showing me effectively the same data, just in a different way, different visualization. A third chart is a stacked bar chart. Again, same idea. It's still our product revenue data, just being presented in a different fashion. We have area charts available to you, so you can view your data as an area chart. We have polar charts. Again, this is the same product revenue information in all of these past, 5 charts, just being presented visually different. Moving down, if we get into charts that include more than one single measure or one value, in this case, we've got a stacked bar chart allowing us to compare performance of our book revenue and our training revenue and our product revenue, as well as a stacked area chart. Again, same 3 measures, just a different visualization. We have pie charts. Again, if you've got a multi-measure report or chart, I should say, a lot of times people like to see their performance in the shape of pies and or donuts. So a donut chart, again, same general idea, just a different presentation. And then lastly, in terms of an existing report, we've got this is just an example of a combination report. It's kind of coming across pretty ugly right now because I'm showing you a date frame that doesn't really work well for what I'm showing. But the idea here, and we'll actually create this chart in a little bit, is that I can view the performance of an initiative with the red line as compared to actual measure performance with the blue column. So, all the charts that I showed you earlier were pretty simplistic in nature, but you can certainly make combination charts. So we'll show you the idea of a combination chart as well as something where you can combine initiative information, task information, what have you, against actual measure performance. So with that said, in the broad overview of the types of charts you can create, let's actually go in and create a chart. So again, I'll click New Report, select Chart Writer, and click Next. Again, within the chart writer, you get the opportunity to define what you're trying to do here. In the upper right, you can compare either items or time ranges. Most charts compare items, and that's what we'll be focusing on today. Again, if you like, you can adjust the calendar, the periodicity that you're employing behind your chart or graph. Again, in terms of showing time periods, it defaults to expecting to show you a full calendar year. In my case, I just want to view a 6-month period of time. So I'll select 5 periods earlier up through the current period. And then I'll click Add Series to tell it, what measure or what data I'd like to view in this chart. So I'll click on the left. Again, we'll focus on the financial organization. And I'll open up the financial profit and loss scorecard and even also open up the revenue theme. And let's say that we just for now want to focus just on a single measure chart. So product revenue is the one measure that I want to present in the chart. Before clicking done, please take note in the lower left, it's kind of subtle, down here in the lower left, you get the opportunity to define what it is you want to show about product revenue. Do I want to see its actual value in a given time period, or would I prefer to see its normalized score, or maybe even its red flag or goal value? So however that particular measure has been set up, the choices here will potentially be different if you have a different scoring methodology applied for different measures. The other thing to be aware of is if you say that you just want to see, for instance, an overview of revenue, not down to the particular measure value, note that your only choice down there is to show the normalized rolled up score for revenue across all the different types of revenue. In my case, as I was saying, I do want to see product revenue, and I would like to, in this case, view the actual values for product revenue. So I'll click Done. Moving just a little bit further down the creation pane here, I can decide if I want to show background thresholds. I'll come back to that in a second. And you do have the opportunity to define whether you want to show axis labels. I'll leave everything as it is for default for now and just click Finish. So of course I end up with a nice simple line graph here for my product revenue performance. Again, I'm able to navigate across time, forward and backward, to view, of course, different time periods. In each case, I'm of course viewing 6 months worth of data and just scrolling across. All right, so the chart has come together, but I now would like to make some changes. What I'd like to see is maybe some different threshold colors in the background. I also would like to adjust this y-axis data range that is being presented here on the left to be a range that I personally define. So I'll again click the Edit button at the bottom of the black navigation panes to return to edit mode, and I'll just scroll down here a little bit. Hang on, before I do that, I'll just give this a different name of July 26 chart writer. And then moving down here, I'll say that I would like to view some background thresholds around product revenue. So I see a red, yellow, green kind of background presented. And also towards the bottom under axes, I'd like to set my own custom y-axis range. So I'll click Set the y-axis range, and I'll say that, for the max, we hope to get up into the 500, maybe even 550,000 range. And in terms of minimum, let's just bring it down to 300,000. So I'm setting my own custom y-axis range, and I'm defining that I would like to see a background, and I'll click Done, again, at the bottom of the black navigation pane. So you'll see that in terms of adjusting the y-axis, what I did is really made this chart look a whole heck of a lot different, because I've asked it to show the threshold, and I also greatly expanded that y-axis range. So to me, this chart is really not quite as impactful as it was initially, but this training is really all about just showing you features and capabilities. I personally probably would go back to the chart the way it was. With that said, let's go ahead and create another new chart. So I'll click New Report to create a new chart, and I'm not going to save that chart with its changes. Again, I'll select Chart Writer and click Next. In this case, what we'll do is create a similar chart around our revenue information, but we're going to include multiple measures, multiple values in the chart. So again, I'll limit the time period to be 5 periods earlier, and I'll click Add Series. And again, navigate into the financial organization on the left and the financial profit and loss scorecard on the right, open up the revenue theme or area, and select product revenue. In this case, instead of showing the actual values for product revenue, I'm going to show the score. And the reason I'm doing that is I know that eventually I'm going to add training revenue and book revenue to this report, and I know that the scale or the scope of revenue that we bring into our products is way more than we do for books. So I'd really like to be able to compare, if you will, the apples and oranges of our revenue numbers by employing the normalized performance scores. So I'll select Score and click Done. Then I'll add another series. And again, navigate to the same financial organization, select the training revenue measure. Again, change it to be a score in the lower left, because I'd like to see it score, and click Done. So what I now have is I've got one product revenue data series included in the report, which has been set up as a line. Again, the ability to change the type of graph is easy via this graph dropdown. And again, here's your selection of all the various graph types or chart types that I showed you earlier. So we'll go ahead and leave the product revenue as a line. We'll set up the training revenue, however, to be a bar. And maybe I want to change the color from the default of kind of a teal to make it a nice vibrant red. And then I'll go up and again, click Add Series to add one more measure to this chart. I'll select Book Revenue and click Done. Oh, I forgot to change it from actual values to score. So I'll click on the Change button here right next to Book Revenue, which indicates it's intending to show actual value. I want to change that to be, please show me the score for Book Revenue, and click Done. And again, how we're going to present the book revenue in this case, we'll make it an area style graph, and I'll change its color to be a little more subtle, something kind of like a light orange color. Okay, and at this point, I'll go ahead and click Finish. And there is my chart showing me 3 different measures all on one combination chart. Again, you have the opportunity to hover over any of the different time periods and get a sense of the performance of all 3 of the different measures. And of course, you know, their actual performance is nicely summarized in the table down below. One other thing that I really haven't touched on throughout looking at any of these charts is the ability to drill, you know, from a chart into more detailed information about any particular measure. So if I click product revenue, hang on, let me just save this report real quick. I'll call that July 26/2 chart writer. And so what I did here is I just drilled from the charts down into the detailed information about product revenue. And that's available to you on all of our myriad different types of charts from the table that exists down underneath each of those charts. Okay, again, we'll get back into edit mode here. And I don't need to make any changes there. We're done. Okay, done. Okay, let's create one last chart. Again, this is another combination chart bringing together some initiative information with some measure information. I told you that I would show you how to do this, so let's get that done. Again, I'll click New Report, select Chart Writer, click Next. And again, I'll change the time period to the usual. Let's just go 5 periods back, and I'll add a series. Again, we'll take a look at from the financial organization and the revenue information that we have. Let's again bring product revenue into this report. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it as actual value and click Done. And then I'm again going to add a series. So I'm on my way again to creating a nice little combination chart here. The primary difference here is that in the upper left next to the type selector, up till now, we've always just worked with scorecard items, but there's an initiatives tab as well. So I can toggle over to initiatives and say, well, you know what I'd like to know is whether our initiative to migrate servers to cloud and the performance across that initiative had any impact, any correlation to the values that we generated in terms of product revenue. So I'll leave the series that I'm going to show for that migrate servers to cloud as % complete. And then click, and then I should say you have plenty of other choices in terms of what you'd like to view on a chart about something like an initiative such as migrate servers to cloud. But again, I'll just leave it as % complete and click Done. And again, I'll just make that migrate servers to cloud a line. I'll leave it as a line. I'll change its color again to be red. And then with regard to the product revenue, I'd like to see the product revenue information as a bar. And we'll leave it the color of blue. So I'll go ahead and click Finish. And there is our graph. Bear with me as I navigate across time to get to a time period where we have a change in performance. Oh, I forgot what I forgot to do. Big thing I forgot to do, folks, was to provide a separate axis for my initiative information. My apologies there. I'm going to click Edit. And I'm going to return to the Migrate Servers to Cloud series or initiative value on this chart. And on the lower right area here, I want an axis on the right for my Migrate Servers to Cloud initiative information. Very important that I didn't do the first time around. And I'll click Done, and then navigate back to a time period where that Migrate Servers to Cloud initiative was going on. And we see that, you know, it started back in October of 2017, and between then and March of 2018, we pretty much fulfilled that initiative, the % complete and the red line. of that initiative, but it really didn't seem to have any direct impact on overall product revenue performance. So if anyone had ever hoped that migrating servers to cloud was going to blow up and really improve our product revenue performance, unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case. All right, so that's our third and last type of chart that I was going to show you here today. Just jumping back real quick to our agenda, the last thing that I wanted to cover with you today is employing reports to achieve mass scorecard editing. So this is kind of a fun and powerful feature of our reporting capability here within QuickScore. In this case, we're going to be creating a report, but it's never really intended to be saved and viewed and leveraged, for actionable insight in the future. The true purpose of even creating the report is so that you can turn around and use it to make underlying adjustments to your scorecard, some properties, attributes, and just make fundamental changes to the underlying scorecard en masse. So to that end, I'll click New Report. I don't need to save changes to that combined chart. And we will start by going into Report Writer. I'll select Report Writer and click Next. And again, in this case, we don't need a whole lot of information for this type of report to make the changes that I'm going to make in this example. So I'm going to select Name and ID and Updaters. And I also would like to have Owners. So a very, very simple 4-column report is what's going to come out of this. I'll click Next. And then I want to filter this down. And what we'll focus on again is the scorecard item. So I'll select Specific Scorecard Items, click Next. And the idea here, the story, if you will, behind what I'm doing is that within the information technology department of Mobile World, we have a new employee whose name happens to be Joe Updater. And we would like to assign Joe Updater to be the updater for all of the measures that exist within the information technology scorecard that I can view on the right. So you see there are 5 different measures in here, and we'd like Joe to be responsible for updating all of them. So I'll select the information technology scorecard, select Add, and then click Done. And then we'll go ahead and get the report. So again, a very simple 4-column, 6-row report is the result. And our goal, as I said, is to add Joe as an updater for every one of the measures within the information technology scorecard. In the lower right-hand corner, there is a mass edit button. Please be aware that the mass editing capability can only be employed when you're in the actual report authoring process. You can't do mass editing with a report that has already been created and saved. So the whole idea behind this is just leveraging an ad hoc dynamic report to achieve mass editing. I'll click Mass Edit. Notice that an additional column has been added to the report. It's just a checkbox column, and I can use the black check at the top to select every single row in this report. With all of those rows selected, in the lower right-hand corner, we have the Edit Selected Items button. I'll click on that, and it wants to know, well, what are we changing? How are you going to edit elements that come from this report? And I will use the Change drop-down and scroll down, and I'm looking for Updaters. So I'm going to change the updaters for everything that I selected out of this report. And what I simply want to do is add a user or a group to become an updater. So at the bottom, I'll just click, and I'll go and find our new employee, Joe Updater. To be the guy that is now going to be responsible for updating all of those measures within that scorecard, and then click Save. And then down towards the lower right-hand corner, before you're going to visually get the satisfaction of knowing that you made the changes to the scorecard, you do have to click Done in the lower right-hand corner. But once you click Done, then the report will show you that it has accepted the change that you asked for. It's for Joe Updater to be an updater for every one of those measures within that information technology scorecard. The last thing that I want to touch on before we let you go here today is another type of report that isn't particularly common, but can be helpful and powerful when you need it, which is a SQL console report. So the SQL console, in terms of how you develop a SQL console report, is extremely simplistic and yet powerful. It basically gives you a query writing opportunity where you can define something like, in this case, select star from one of the underlying QuickScore data repository tables is what you're hitting. You're hitting the underlying QuickScore data repository. In this case, we'll just pull everything from our login history table and click finish. And the result, again, is a tabular report, again, spitting at you everything that it got and it returned from the query that you defined in that SQL query. And that, folks, I'm pretty sure wraps it up. Let's just return real quick to my little PowerPoint presentation and just review with you what we covered today. We covered an overview and general navigation of charts and reports, how to build reports, how to build charts, and how to achieve mass scorecard editing via a report in QuickScore. I very much hope that this session has been helpful to you. Thank you very much for taking the time to attend. Thank you for being a Spider Strategies QuickScore customer and or partner. We appreciate all of you, and I wish you all a very good rest of your Thursday. Thank you for coming.